I'm I Will Dominate, and this is Thorin's channel. The guy who, if I keep on associating with him, will get me banned on Twitch eventually.
Right, as you alluded to before when you were talking earlier, when you went from Schalke, then you obviously went to Rogue. And already, Rogue had already become one of the better teams in the league. But the problem is, this is why I actually thought your signing was perfect. Obviously, the issue they had was a bunch of their players were like newer players and were rookies or 1 or 2 years into their career. Like, I mean, if people forget, like, VandeR went out when you came in, so like you were basically the one like true veteran on the team. Like I don't really know if at that time you call Hans Sammer a veteran. He'd only been in LEC a few years himself. So when you joined this team, like how does this move happen? By the way, were they impressed with you on Splice? Like how do you get to join Rogue out of all the teams?
I mean, Miracle Run helped a lot. I think if I didn't have Miracle Run, I would probably not end up in Rogue. The thing is, I feel like in EU. Or maybe in NA as well, people have this incredible boner for stats, you know? I guess it's just the eye test, you know? If you hear a caster say good things about you, then you must be good, you know? They wouldn't lie, would they? If they see stats that are good, they're like, oh, well, the stats are good, the number says so he must be good, you know? I feel like people don't really dive past that. And when you're on a team that is as shit as well, not as shit, but like objectively, when we're 1 and 10, we're shit, you know. So I can say it. When you're on a team as shit as Schalke, as a caster, I feel like you can't go and say to a team on cast, oh, they're 1 and 10, all of them are bad, you know, because it just sounds bad. They need to make it like, oh, they're 1 and 10, but their shining star, their one hope is player X, you know?
Right.
You need to kind of spin the narrative in a positive way because that's just how it works, you know?
Sure.
That's what people want to hear. People want to hear fairy tales and all of this stuff. So that's why I feel like every year, not only like me, but on teams that have on teams that are struggling, there's always a player that is a standout. Like for example, I think when Origin made 10th, because we were talking about it, Alphari was all pro #1.
Oh, it's true, yes. Yeah.
Because it's like, in contrast, you look at the team, when you see 10th, well, you're expecting everyone's stats to be, you know, like from, let's say, 5 or 6 to 10th ranking.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, you have someone that has his like top 3 in stats when his team is 10th. So all of a sudden, you're like, oh, well, he must be doing something exceptional if his team is so bad and he still looks so good. So imagine if you'd put him on a better team, this guy would be skyrocketing, you know? So I feel like I benefited a little bit from a narrative like that as well. But I do feel like my gameplay got a lot better in Schalke towards the end. I felt like I found myself and I played a lot better. And I think that's why I think it was also kind of a matter of free agency, because the way it seems the way I realized it's happening lately is there's just off seasons where there's a lot of free agents and there's off seasons where there's just no one. And I think in that off season there was not really a lot of. I think there was only me and Alphari, and I think they wanted Alphari. But then Alphari took the big bag and went to TL, and then they got me, you know. But yeah, it was. I think that's how it happened. Going into Rogue was a bit difficult for me because, as I said, I kind of had the little man complex where I felt like, oh, hey, one of the best teams in the league, maybe top 2, top 3, wants me, and you just dodged the bullet with Schalke when you were like, bottom of the standings for like a year and a half. Well, you better be very grateful to them and do everything they want you to do, you know. And I struggled with this for a couple of splits, or like not couple of splits, for like a split and a half maybe. I was very, I think, lucky to have a good support staff, because one of the things that I noticed when I went to Rogue the first time was the fact that their staff was incredibly developed. I think it was the most developed staff that I ever worked with back in 2021, because I went from zero support staff to I go to the office. They have a cook that is cooking for us every day. They have coach, assistant coach, plus analyst all on site, 3 people from like the kind of the knowledge database, the gameplay database over there. They have Isma, who is performance coach, a mental coach, psychologist. Right. You know, in my eyes, he's literally the GOAT. Honestly, in esports psychology. I don't know how he would do in other titles, but in League of Legends, this guy is even after he left, I think one of the first things I did after I won LEC, I went to him and I messaged him and I said, I want thanks to you. Because for me, he was that good. You know, he did things, he impacted me in ways where even after a year after he left, I was like, I would not be the same player I am if it wasn't for you.
Can you give an example? What's something you changed or some sort of like perspective he gave you?
I think he was just the first guy who was really, really good and good at psychology. And I don't know, he taught me things like, how to not choke and stuff, because I would have I would deal with stress and stuff, and, just teaching you breathing techniques, how to properly meditate, how to clear your mind, how to reset your mind, how to always be leveled. Because, for example, you go 2-0 up in a series, you're incredibly hyped, you think it's going to be a 3-0, and then that hype is going to kill you in game because you're so hyped that you're not doing objective decisions. You're, instead of keeping it level neutral like this, you're already at the level that you're up here,
Right.
And this is not your baseline, because when you practice and stuff, you're always down here. So taught me how to temper hype and everything, and kind of always keep you on this neutral level where you're kind of like a machine,
Dude, when you say that, that's immediately making me think, is this also then why, if people remember the voice comms that were released when you guys did win the split in Rogue a year ago, you were saying that after the 2-0 and the 1-0 even, you were constantly telling the players, so look, I know we won the game, but don't fucking troll, let's play serious. Is that part of why you had that focus?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly, because I was like,
right.
We got reverse swept the year before, and it was the same. Game 3, we felt like we were going to win super easily. Game 5, we thought we were going to win super easily, and then that defeat was just soul crushing, And after that, I was like, I experienced it firsthand how hype kills you, how the fact that even though you're better, the fact that you are so eager to win that you end up losing is what kills you from winning a championship that maybe you will never win ever again. And for me, that series against G2, I was like, it took me 6 years to make a final. I got reverse swept, and I'm going into this one as the biggest, as a huge underdog. I'm sure we're gonna get to it, but I think our win rate against that G2 roster, that whole split of scrims in summer split, was somewhere around 2 wins, 70 losses.
Fucking hell, okay.
So we go into that finals weekend with 2 wins, 70 losses, and everyone in the back room, we are all we're gonna win today. Even though these guys have been murdering us and bashing our heads in for the whole year, And in scrims, we would feel like they're undefeatable. But on stage that day, we felt like it's just going to be a free win, But yeah, that's why going into Rogue, I had someone like Isma who kind of helped me get over the fact that I felt like I was an outsider a little bit, because Rogue was giving me a big hand, and he kind of empowered me a lot in the sense where he's like, okay, listen, even though this team is really good, you are a veteran, you've been here for such a long time, there's things, you have great ideas and all of this stuff. So he kind of did his best to empower me and kind of get over this whole thing and kind of make me proper leader and, have good values and stuff. There was also Bernie as well, who was also part of this, psychological / mental aspect of coaching. He would take care of, making sure you have proper, healthy lifestyles, good sleep schedules, monitor all of these things that you don't really think about, sleep quality, relation of physical fitness to, mental strength and all of this stuff, so that you can always perform at a really, really good level. And he would take care of all of these things. And that's why when I joined Rogue, I was like, holy shit, this staff is amazing, Shame that it changed in 2022, 2021 was a great year in that aspect with the whole staff and everything. But yeah, I loved working there. All the stuff was great. Just some aspects that were a bit funny. But yeah, signing was, Alfari, they wanted him over me, which is funny.
Right, when you were in this team, like you just addressed it there, what happened in the spring final where the first split you guys were there, right? The key thing for me is this. It's not even just the thing of like you race swept, all that jazz. My question to you is this. It's as you framed it. The biggest reason I was actually really worried, no joke, when that final was lost, you were actually the first person I thought about because I thought, fucking hell, all those years it's taken him to get to a final, you get there and you hope you can win and then you get reverse swept when like essentially you feel like, dude, it's like a cartoon. It's like wacky races. You're this close to the finish line, then the car breaks down, doesn't it? Like, and everyone passes you by. Like in that moment when it's been so long, like the difference is if you're someone like Trimby in his first split, if anything, you're like, oh, this is cool. I hope we get him next time. Like, does it make you think when you lose like that? Like, am I just cursed? Do I just never get to win or something? Did it feel like bullshit like that?
That was literally the first thing I think I said. I said it to because I started crying super hard, because I was like literally heartbroken. I was like. I think the first thing I said to everyone around me, I was like, I'm just fucking cursed, I was like, it took me 7 years or 6 years to make a final, and I lose it in this manner, because, after the game, you think of like game 3 and game 5, for me, I was like, I made huge mistakes in those games, and I blame myself so much, because I was like, if I didn't make those mistakes in game 3 and game 5, I would be a champ right now. And after that, I was like, am I ever gonna make it again? Am I gonna make finals again? Is this how I'm gonna look back at it? Where I would think about it. I was so close, and if I didn't make this simple tiny mistake, that would be the difference between me being or like maybe retiring at some point as a champion or as a like nobody, because that's kind of how I think, for me, like if you don't win you're a loser. So for me that would have been like maybe my biggest regret ever, if I would never have won. After that finals, it would be kind of like something that would haunt me in that sense. So yeah, after that final I was like, I'm just cursed, man. It took me 6 years because I never took it for granted, that's why I did interview, I think, the day before finals, because we qualified, I think, through some, lower bracket or something, because we lost the mat or something before. And I was literally crying, because I was like, this is what I've been chasing for like 6 years.
Right.
It's here. And I was so motivated to murder Mad Lions in that final. But I wasn't taking it for granted, because I was like, it took me 6 years of grinding to get here. So I'm not going to think I'm going to win, But when you're 2-0, I kind of made the mistake where I got too excited or too hyped, thinking that we're winning because the games felt easy, that we lost game 3, and in game 5, I made a mistake again. Or I think, I'm not even sure if I made a mistake. I think Hans got caught on mid lane, but
yes,
again, yeah, I mean...
I remember there was one like big famous mistake that like threw the whole thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was that, but also I think I made a mistake, and I think one of the Baron retakes, the way we approached the situation, I got caught or I got split up, and then everyone else died, and then I blamed myself for it, So it's like everyone takes turns doing their own mistakes. So for me, I looked at all of that. I took that whole loss personally. I felt like I was the big reason why we lost that series, and I felt really bad. I thought I was never gonna make finals again. I'm never gonna win and stuff like this. So I felt really, really cursed, because I felt like I did almost everything right, but then in the moments that counted, I made mistakes in game 3 and 5. So I felt really, really, really bad about it. It took me a while to get over it, especially after summer, because after summer we didn't even make finals. So I was like, yup. After summer, spring felt even worse, because after summer, I just replayed the whole year in my head, and I was like, fuck, man, that's spring final. If now that I didn't even make finals, I don't have the chance. Am I gonna make finals next year? Was that the only finals I would ever play in my career? Did I just fuck up that chance of winning LEC? Maybe the only chance I ever had of winning LEC in that final. Did I fuck it up? And yeah, it was that year, even though it was probably one of my more successful years, having first ever final was, I think, one of the worst years I had as a pro.
Because obviously the funny thing is the next year, obviously you had like a game against G2 in the final in the spring where they just rolled you. They swept you 3-0, even though actually, again, it was kind of heartbreaking because the Fnatic series gave everyone the hope, didn't they? They thought, like, right, you remember the whole narrative was like, right, Larssen's played Silas 3 games, so no longer is he a boring mage mid laner. They can do it, guys. We can win finally. And then you got swept in the final. Like, how do you deal with that one, by the way? Because that was also one where, even though now everyone will go, well, of course G2 should win, they were actually the underdog for that final. If you remember when they came in, some people didn't know how they're going to play. Are they going to be okay? Are you guys going to win? What were you thinking?
I mean, we're definitely, I think, heavy favorites because I think G2 even lost the series against Fnatic at some point early in the bracket. They got knocked into lower bracket, and then in lower bracket, they figured out the proper meta for the patch or like adaptations to counter whatever was going on in that meta, and they just rolled through everyone. And yeah, getting Storm 3-0 again threw me back all the way to spring last year, where I was like, again, bro, I just literally made the final again. I got murdered, and it wasn't even close. Now it was 3-2. Am I bad? Am I washed? Are we washed? Was that again the only chance I had? You know, so. Yeah, I don't know. That one was. I mean, that one wasn't really that hard to digest.
I mean, if someone's a casual fan, it's a famous thing pros often say that even though it's counterintuitive, it's actually easier to get smashed and feel like you're not even in the game than to lose the close game. Because obviously you can always think, like you're doing in this interview, you can always think of the things you could have done differently in the close game, right? Whereas if you just get clapped, you just go, whatever, I couldn't have won the game anyway, right?
Yeah. I mean, they both suck in very different ways, you know, like, but I guess in the moment, they're all just as awful. But the thing is, I think when you have a 3-0 and a 3-2, when you look back at it, you know, as time goes by, you know, 6 months passed or like 1 year after or whatever, it doesn't hurt as much. But for me, even after I won, now it's been I think 2 years almost. I still think of that spring finals, you know. Because now,
the loss never goes away, right? You're all, even when you win, it doesn't like erase the past loss, right?
That 3-2 is always there. It's still like it still sucks. Now I'm being greedy, but I'm like, okay, I would have been the 2-time, not the 1-time, you know.
Right, sure.
But no, that one, the emotional charge is just a lot bigger. When it's a 3-0, you're like, well, you just suck, you know. You just suck. Here's all of the things you got murdered by, so you can try and get better for the next split, you know? And that was kind of like our approach. We were like, okay, summer split is coming. You can't sit there and be sad. Go get him, champ, you know? And that's kind of how we coped, I think, with the 3-0. Because honestly, the perfect example of what you said is literally this. When I think of that 3-0 final, I don't remember anything.
Right.
They're just literally nothing. But when I think of Mad Lions, I'm like, game 3 and 5, those games are haunting me.
Right.
So yeah, I don't remember a single draft or a single pick that I played in, you know, in that 3-0 that we lost to G2 in the finals.
Thing is, though, as bad as all that obviously is, like, I agree with you. Like, they are separate championships. Like, that is always going to be one you've lost. It doesn't matter how many you win afterwards. If anything, like you say, if you won 6 championships, you think, well, I could have had 7. That's obviously the way human nature is. But the cool thing is, Nick, if this was a movie, not real life, this would be perfect scripting, Odoamne, because obviously in the movie, you know, you have to get knocked down a few times until you finally overcome. And actually, the way you guys did win was fucking sick. It was against the same G2. This time, everyone said they were going to win, by the way. It was like, wasn't even supposed to be close. Like, the joke was, most people before the third place, the low bracket game, thought Fnatic was going to win. No one even thought Rogue was going to the final. Then in the final, because actually it's in Sweden, it's on stage, everything. If remember, Rogue is supposed to be all the chokers. Everyone's telling me Larssen's a choker. Like, everyone's thinking, right, this has got to be... It's Caps and fucking G2, they're going to win. And not only did you win, what's cool is, one, it was a 3-0, but it was also a competitive match. Like, some of these games were competitive. Like, I feel like this is look, as we're saying, it doesn't take away the pain of the past ones, but it's kind of a cool way to get your championship finally. Give me some thoughts on this win.
I mean, going into that, we definitely got called chokers a million times, because if you're 2-0 and you lose 2-3, you're a choker. If you're a favorite to win and you lose 3-0, you're a choker again. You lost at some point in your past something that you're supposed to win, you're a choker. Me and Larssen were called mega chokers for pretty much the whole career up until that point. That's why, I mean, That's why my first tweet after winning was not even like, oh, I'm so happy to win. I literally tweeted, choke on this trophy, motherfuckers. I was like, shut the fuck up, all of you. Which is kind of sad thinking about it, because the whole moment about winning a trophy is not even about me.
Yes.
It's about...
It's like, fuck all the haters. Yeah, sure.
It's about everyone who hated me up until that point. So it's not even about me anymore. It's about everyone else.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. It was really weird. It was really, really weird. Because the thing is, leading up to that weekend, we were like screaming and stuff. I think that summer split wasn't really the best for us. We had our ups and downs. I think we lost to someone. I forgot to who we lost, but we were kind of the guys coming from lower bracket to face Fnatic. We weren't the guys waiting there for Fnatic. So we were mega underdogs. I think we were in a bit of a slump at that time. I think mood was really bad in the office. We had a lot of civil wars and everything. I was really not confident going into that weekend, especially, you know, Fnatic, we were like, yeah, we can be Fnatic, you know, but when you're going into that G2 series, or thinking ahead of, like, you know, okay, let's say you beat Fnatic, who are you going to play G2? Let me look at the calendar here. Oh, my win rate against them this whole year is 3%.
Sure.
3%, and then they say to you, well, you have to win 60%, 20 times more that, to percentage-wise, to win the championship. Can you do it? And everyone's like, fuck no. 3% doesn't lie, you know? It's not like 40%, 50%, 30%, something close. It's 3%, you know? 2 wins, 70 losses.
Trimby even said in the interview I did with him that, like, none of that shit in the draft was even planned. All those, like, cool things you did in those weird picks, that all just came out, like, in the day. Like, it wasn't even, like, a plan that people had going in.
Yeah, it was really, really weird, because so in the Rogue office, we were all hating each other. We were all like, you really know, the tank was empty, frustrations, because the thing is, when we went to that year, the first thing we did in spring, when we started the split, we were like, we need to find a way for everyone to get over the trauma that we lost the year before, you know? Because I was still there, Trimby was still there, Larssen was still there, and the core was still very traumatized, you know, from the fact that we lost that that finals, you know, and there is some sort of resentment because, you know, deep down people say, oh, you fucked up, blah, blah. Maybe they don't say it out loud, but that's just how it works. You have some sort of resentment and you work with it, and yeah. That was what we did for the summer. That's what we did for summer split. The split after we got reversed by Mad Lions. That's what we did in spring split again, when we started the year with the new roster. And yeah, leading into summer, I think everyone's just tank was empty, you know, because when you practice in the same environment for so much, and there's so many negative memories you have of that environment, losing games and stuff, and arguments like this. Everyone was like really, really done, you know. We were like going to Malmo, but we were like, we have to play, you know. You have to compete and do all of this stuff. The thing is, we fly to Malmo and we land and we go to Arena, and I just look at everyone and I just feel something completely different, you know. It's just like people are happy again. People are not hating each other again. People are talking to each other, having fun, being good teammates, you know, like we always were before trauma happened. And then we go into like the practice games and stuff like this, and we're just murdering everyone. I think we played the team that won EU Masters, I think, that year or something, because it was kind of like the same schedule or something. They were playing before, and we played practice games, and I don't know, we murdered them like 12 times in 3 hours. That's how stumpy the games were. You know, you just go free fire. They would FF 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because we would just like murder them so hard in scrims. So we're like, everyone's just having fun and everyone's playing good. You know, everyone believes in each other, and all of a sudden there's this newfound level of trust between each other. You know, so we go into the not Mad Lions, to the Fnatic game. Everyone kind of confident. Everyone a bit spooked. You know, still feeling like, are we gonna be good today on this day, or are we gonna be shit, you know? So it was a bit jittery. First game was incredibly bad. We mega choked out of our minds. I think we got stomped in like 20 minutes. And then we go backstage and we talk and we're like, guys, we're doing the same thing we've been doing this whole year, where we're just like scared and stuff and doing this and not talking to, or like casting our own games, you know, because this is a plague that is in League of Legends. Is you say someone is the shot caller, but in reality it's just the caster, where you're saying, oh, an enemy team will come here and do this, and I'm like, great, but what do we do about it, you know?
Yes.
And that was kind of like what we were doing for the whole first game against Fnatic. We were just saying, what do we do about it? Or like, they're doing this, they're doing that, but there was no decision being made. So we were incredibly passive, and that's when we ended up just getting like super stomped. And then going into game 2, I think that's what we kind of needed, just like someone to slap us and say, hey guys, stop being shit. Stop doing the stupid thing that you do for the whole year, you know? And that's kind of like what I said to everyone as well. Because I think that's, I mean, you kind of set it up, you know, with the whole leader thing you said and all of this stuff, but I really don't like it. But I kind of did do a lot of the talking over there. But it also felt weird, you know, because let's say, as I said to you, there was this whole negative emotion happening at the office. If I would go there and try to be a leader and be like, okay, guys, let's do this today. Yeah, 1-3 rogue, whatever, you know. Everyone will be like looking at me, be like, shut the fuck up, because no one's in the mood for that, you know. But the thing is, when we got to Malmo, everyone was just looking at each other, and I just saw hope. Everyone was looking at each other, and I just see hope in everyone's eyes, you know. Everyone's just like so motivated and hungry to do stuff, and I was like, oh, well, I guess it's my time to say something, you know, because I felt like, I don't know, everyone was just inspiring me to do something as well. Like, I guess it was just kind of like this whole circle of like people giving hope and inspiring each other to be good on that day, you know. And it was kind of like this endless loop of everyone just giving positivity to each other, you know. And it was weird because that just spawned out of nowhere. Because yeah, as I said, for like 2 weeks, everyone was just super depressed and angry with each other. So yeah, we get murdered by Fnatic game 1. I think game 2, 3, 4 were like complete stomps. Everyone started playing really, really good. Everyone was like really confident in each other. Trimby was a monster. He was just screaming 24/7 in the arena. I mean, you saw as well how crazy he went. It's crazy how this guy gets unlocked by, you know, just like public around him or like energy around him. He's a completely different beast. Yeah, I think that's what he needed. That's what I needed. That's what everyone needed, to just kind of have this change of environment and this, you know, this belief that you have in each other, or this hope you have in each other, up until someone stomps you really hard, you know. But we're lucky it didn't happen that day. So we win against Fnatic 3-1. We go the next day, arrive, just do our own, you know, practices and everything. G2 pumped as always. Honestly, they looked really good. Roman with his like typical G2 thing. He's looking like, you know, scary as usual. Quite intimidating a little bit, to be honest. Hard not to be when they have these like battle shouts and all of this thing they did. I was like, even though you're really hype, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, you know.
Okay.
Okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. But yeah, it was. I was feeling really confident, you know, which is really weird considering that I'm one of the bigger advocates for, you know, scrim results kind of follow the pattern of how you'll do on stage. But at the same time, on that day, I was like, when I go to the venue and I see people with like even more hope in their eyes compared to how it was before, I was like, holy shit, we're unbeatable today. And that's what everyone felt. Everyone felt before the game, even though these guys just murder us so much in that year, the murdering got so bad that it felt like we had a mental block, you know? Like, I think we would go to the office, arrive, be like, who do we scream G2? And everyone would just like sink in their chair like this, you know, and just be like, oh, fuck, man, another one of these days, you know? Where you just prepare for someone to like beat your ass really hard, you know? And that's kind of like what I think the attitude, or like how we felt for the whole year. And I mean, some people are gonna say it's like bitch attitude or whatever, but I mean, listen, when you play a team and they just murder you so many times, you know, it does things to you.
Sure.
Like, for example, in 2016, I think before we played Samsung at Worlds, we scrimmed T1, and these guys just murdered us 25-0, and we're like,
right.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you just feel like you can't win no matter what you do. They're just that good. And that's how we felt about G2 that year when they were murdering us in scrims because we had like a mental block and we were just stupid as shit. We were like, they're just that good. You just can't win. But on that day, everyone just looked like they didn't give a shit, and they felt like they're the one. It felt like we were the ones that went 73 to 2 losses that day. And I don't know, it just showed in gameplay. We went on stage and everyone was just an animal. Drafting was completely crazy. I mean, we had draft structures, but we would go into draft on stage and Trimby would just say, let's play Kalista. I think Soraka's good here, or Kalista
Right.
Soraka. And that's a combo no one ever played.
Oh, this is shit you never played a scrim on ever, right?
Yeah, we never played those things. Like most of the things we cooked in that final weekend was something that was just like full instinct based that people just had belief in. Because the thing is, when I look at Trimby, like when we have like a group that felt so strong or like so powerful, like, you know, in the back room, and then Trimby goes on stage and says, pick me Soraka, I will win this game for you. You're not gonna say no to him.
Sure.
But the thing is, he did it at Worlds, and he picked Nasus, and then we lost. So that kind of sucks, you know. so that's how the story goes. Like that's how the story goes bad, you know. Like when it hits really hard.
Yes.
But when it flops even worse. So there's just like, I don't know. Draft was everyone just saying what feels confident, you know. Like I play Owen versus Gwen, and I'm like, I don't care. Like he's counterpicking me and he's gonna murder me in lane or whatever, but we're gonna win the game. The Nexus will explode. You know, it's the Dylan Falco. The Nexus will explode. So I'm like, sure. And I don't know. Everyone was just a psychopath that day. I felt like it was one of those days, or I think it was one of the only days or only moments I ever had in my pro career where I felt like you could beat anyone in the world.
Right.
Which is a bit naive, maybe, because if you would play T1, they would maybe murder us.
Sure.
But in that moment, I felt like we were untouchable. Ever since we lost first game to Fnatic, going into the series against G2, I felt like we were just unbeatable. But I also feel like G2 choked. Like,
sure.
I feel like that's just my feeling of, you know, being over the world, feeling like we can beat everyone. But it did feel like G2 choked in that finals, you know, because I don't know. Looking back at it, they did a lot of stuff or they were a lot less uncoordinated or a lot less coordinated than they used to be. And that might also be, you know, us being good and forcing mistakes and stuff and actually playing with confidence against them for once, which we didn't have, you know, for like, you know, scrims and all of this stuff. And yeah, maybe them just being taken aback by them. So by that. So yeah, that was kind of my recollection of the final. It was just a crazy weekend that somehow, even though we are the biggest underdogs ever in our own eyes, we felt like the biggest, like, you know, favorites going into that series, just because I still don't know how the hell it happens, but when we went to Malmo, it just changed the whole group dynamic, which is really weird considering, I mean, I don't know, I guess motivation does weird things to you.
When you actually did win, even though, as you say, part of it was sort of like, right, now time to like get revenge on everyone who talks shit on me. At the same time, the difference is, right, if someone's young in their career, like if you think of someone like, I mean, Comp hasn't been a pro for that long. Maybe to him, look, I'm sure it was the best day of his career, but he probably hopes there'll be plenty more career. And it isn't as momentous as what happened in your journey. You had to go from so long. At this point, you're one of the oldest players. Like we're saying, you hadn't even been in that many finals. It was only the last few years you'd started making the finals. When you actually got to lift that trophy, was it like a special moment? Do you remember it? Could you savor it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird because I guess when you go into a finals all the way back in like spring against Mad, sometimes when you think you're gonna win, you're kind of like rehearsing, you know. It's like rehearsing your victory speech. I'm gonna accept my Oscar here and I'm gonna say this, you know, and you prep a speech. And it's a little bit of that happened. But in that moment where you win, you're completely like, at least I was completely blacked out. I'm like, it's a whole haze, you know?
Right.
that whole tour of the arena, lifting the trophy and everything was even more. It was even better than I expected. You know, like lifting the trophy was just an incredible feeling, and it's addicting, honestly. You know, especially in like in an arena and everything. I mean, it didn't go as I planned. You know, when you rehearse it in your head, it's always different. But that trophy was way too heavy. Honestly, it was like 30 kilos of. So I was like, it was funny because for Marang, for example,
who, if people haven't seen, he's not exactly jacked, is he? I can imagine it'd be hard for him to lift it.
So Marang was lifting the trophy and he couldn't. So me and Cobb had to lift it with him. You know.
Right.
But no, the moment was great. The only thing that I think back of a little bit is like, I maybe should have savored the moment a little bit for myself more than like throwing hate at people who like flamed me over the years, you know. So I'm like, but that's for the next time, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a great moment. I think the fact that I lost the year before and I got to lift it, or like lift my first ever trophy, because it also coincided with like COVID times, you know. So it was the first event after COVID and everything, and getting to do it with like an arena full of fans felt absolutely amazing. But yeah, a lot of it's a haze, because I don't know, you're so high on adrenaline and everything that honestly I don't remember, you know, maybe like 30 or 40% of the stuff of like those moments after the win.
I want to ask about a few of the Rogue teammates, because obviously we're going to move on now to the XL GIANTX phase, right? So the first one I want to ask about is actually the guy who was just there for the first year and got swapped for Malrang. It's Inspired, right? Give me some thoughts on this, because here's the weird thing. He was the MVP of the LEC. He was the MVP of the LCS. He's clearly a very good fucking jungler, but to me, I mean, it's always been the way with junglers. It's not just the jungler on their own. It's how do they fit with the team and who are they helping and does their style work? Was there some sort of a style clash with Inspired in Rogue, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he was very, very selfish, I would say, in that year, where he would play for himself a lot. But this was also kind of our team identity, where we had a jungler that was incredibly talented and we wanted to empower him. And the thing is, the lanes were good enough to empower him, because we pretty much would go into every game and we'd be like, okay, you have winning top, winning mid, winning jungle. Winning top, winning mid, winning AD, winning bot lane. So literally the world is your oyster, you know, you do whatever you want. And it worked. People didn't mind so much because we are winning games, you know. So we got finals with him. We almost won. We lost. Sucks, you know. I don't think there was like a lot of resentment. Sure, the thing is, when you lose, there's always gonna be resentment. No matter how nice that person is or everything he does, there's gonna be resentment. There's always gonna be something that people are gonna blame you for. I feel like he could have been maybe a little bit of a better teammate, and a little bit more involved in like the team culture and everything. But the common theme in all of these is like looking back at Schalke, at Rogue, at, you know, all of these teams. I'm like, the guys who always are problematic in that time are usually the youngest ones, you know, and then they grow up and then they become more mature and then they stop being the problem. And that was also me, you know, because I was the problem in the Spliced roster, for example, because I was the more verbally, I don't know, let's say confrontational or aggressive in that sense, where I would spark discussions that people weren't really in the mood for and whatever. So maybe this was happening here as well, because I think he was only like 19,
right,
when he was in Rogue. And yeah, I think he took the first loss to Mad Lions really, really badly. He cried the most, I think, out of everyone. He was the most heartbroken because he was, I think, the most confident out of all of us that we were gonna win, and he really, really wanted to win. And I think he felt let down a little bit by us. And you know, it's fair. Like, let's say maybe I mean, I don't know if he thought this, but let's say you're maybe 18, 19, immature, and let's say the way maybe Hans got caught on that mid lane affected him more than it affected me. You know, you can resent people. Because for example, I don't look back. I don't look at that moment and say, "Oh, Hans, you lost the series or whatever," because you got caught on mid lane. I look at those moments where I got caught and I lost the series, because everyone has these, like all of these mistakes. You look back at them and you're like, "Oh, this is the crucial mistake," because that's what players do usually.
Sure.
So yeah, maybe at that moment he got affected a little bit more by Hans getting caught, and maybe our relationship with time like damaged a little bit. I don't think he was. I mean, he was a strong personality, but I don't think he was, bad intentioned or anything. I worked with difficult personalities before, Upset, FORG1VEN, pretty much a lot of the guys in the scene who are maybe considered a little bit more blunt or abrasive, and he was okay, So yeah, I don't know. Inspired was like, it was good to work with in that sense, because he always had a good game plan. He was also very, very, talented, and he was also giving us a lot of wins, But at the same time, I think seeing him win in NA after we lost in Rogue together kind of made everything a little bit. It's not like I hated him, but made things a little bit worse for me, because I was like, oh man. Another one of my ex-teammates who won a trophy without me. Because at that point, the list was long, Like, I think Abe won before, Trick won.
Jankos.
Now, Jankos. So many people who played with me ended up being, winning a major Legion. And I was like, all of these were kind of like accentuating this feeling that I had that maybe I was the problem.
Right.
So, so yeah, I felt like it wasn't really like, bad to work with him. I felt like he was giving us wins, but I also felt like a bit sad because I felt like maybe my value wasn't really seen as much individually or like by him or by teammates, because we're all forced in this kind of like into this play style that empowers him a lot, but also takes power a little bit away from us. And also at Worlds, I felt like that's one of the reasons I sucked. Because Worlds that year when we went with Inspired, I feel like I was getting a little bit gapped by Asian tops. I mean, also
you were playing against like fucking Khan and Nagori or whatever. Like, they were pretty good top laners,
Okay, so let me tell you the story, because I don't know if the story went out like the whole proper way. But so we were in like Iceland for Worlds in 2021. The roster with 2021 the roster with Inspired and Hans. And we're doing scrims and everything is like going very well. Like, I'm in really, really good form. I feel like I'm gonna have a good tournament and stuff. And then I think like 5 or 6 days before group stage, I think I get some, I don't know what the hell I get, but I get like some kidney stone or something that I was in bed for 2-3 days on like, actual painkillers and like codeine and stuff like this, stuff that like actually makes you high,
Right.
What's it called? Like painkillers so strong that kind of like knock you out a little bit, So I was just like CC'd for 3 days, and then if I was to be standing on my butt, like if I would be laying down, I'd be okay, But the moment I would make any attempt to stand up, I would get like immense pain in like my groin area,
Right.
So I felt like it was impossible to stand up or function, because as soon as gravity kicks in, I'm just knocked out, That's how painful it was. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I went to like the hospital. I was there for like a day and a half. They do tests and everything. They give me like painkillers, like really strong painkillers. And I have to take them for like the whole time if I want to like, be able to play and stuff. So I'm like bed sick for like 3 days. I wake up from having like really, really good form. I go scrim, and all of a sudden everyone's playing fucking Lucian and Gravestop. Right. And I'm like, I missed these 3 or 4 days of the train where everyone is shifting from like Aatrox and all of these other champions that we've been like playing and having really good results. And all of a sudden it's fucking Lucian and Gravestop. And I'm like, bro, I just missed the train. And all of a sudden I look, and I think the top laners in my group were the only top laners that were like kind of on this meta. Everyone also still on like this Aatrox, Renekton, and all of this stuff meta, where those matchups are like difficult, but you can like, you can win 50-50 matchups like Aatrox, Renekton, all of this stuff. But then there's like these matchups, there's like Lucian, Jace, Greaves, all of this stuff. It started, we didn't play at all because we missed the train when it started. And it also requires us to play a little bit differently as a team with Inspired, where, you know, I would look at those replays and I would be trading with, you know, in this Lucian Graves matchups or Lucian Jace matchups. And the moment the trade happens, the whole fucking enemy team is running to top lane, you know? Jungler is dropping all of his camps, runs to top, support is pushing and running to top, and everyone's playing super active, you know? And for us, it was something that we were really not used to, where someone is playing so actively around top, because these matchups are like so volatile that you need to punish every single window, while we are used to windows that you can punish with, like, you know, around jungle timers and stuff. So it was really unfortunate I was like knocked out like that. Then I come back, I have like 3 days to prep these matchups, and I kind of struggle a little bit because I felt like I didn't really have time to, you know, it's not really so much about how I play it, because it's obviously how I play it, you know, like I need to optimize my trades and everything, but I need to learn and say how to properly communicate with like Inspired and everyone else, and be like, hey, I want to fight on this, or like in this time, or come and let's do this, let's do that. Properly communicate everything I need, you know? Because it was a dynamic change for the whole team, not only for top lane, you know? I mean, it was for me the most, because I had to play champions that spawned out of nowhere, or at least in my eyes, I felt like spawned out of nowhere. And also get everyone to understand exactly what I need, you know? And I think was one of the bigger flaws I had at that was that I wasn't really able to get everyone to understand exactly how everything functions around there, around the top lane, and everything that I need to be able to play those matchups well. So yeah, I don't know, that timing of what happened there was like really messed up.
Another player I want to talk about is obviously the mid laner Larssen, who you played with for the 2 years, right? The weird thing about this player is he is actually one of those people who has a very set sort of Reddit narrative, and it's the classic one of like, he's just a boring mage mid laner and all he does is farm and never roam, and you know, and then obviously like, that's why I say it sort of blew people's minds when he picked the Silas against Fnatic and he was actually like killing people, or when he played LeBlanc and stuff. Who is Larssen to Odoamne?
He's actually one, I think, maybe the most complete mid laner I played with, because he can play all of those things, but at the same time, he's also fitting. The thing is, the reason he was playing mages and all of this stuff the year before was also because, you know, when you play with Inspired, what does Inspired want from you? Inspired wants pushing lanes and be able to fight for camps. What gives you those pushing lanes? Well, control mages like Azir, Orianna, all of this bullshit that is boring, you know? So that's kind of like, he was kind of a byproduct of, you know, having to play this style that's for Inspired. That's why he was playing all of this stuff. But also, that's why in the series against G2 and against Fnatic, we are like, okay, how do we win these games? It's by skirmishing a lot more. That's why all of a sudden you see Larssen taking the Ahri or the Lissandra away from Caps, and he's playing kind of like Cap style against Caps, you know, where he's the one being super active, pushing and making skirmishes and everything happen, when he was usually the one that just sits in lane and does all of this stuff, you know. For me, he is, I mean, everyone has things they can work on, but for me, I think he's the best mid laner I played with in my career. But that's the thing. So the thing is, when you win a LEC, you're kind of like, oh, all my teammates are the best.
You get biased,
with, you know?
Sure.
So, I don't know, but I think he is. I mean, objectively, he's really good. Everyone sees him as really good. I see him as really good. The only thing we maybe clashed on a bit was, you know, points of views as usual, just normal teammate stuff. It wasn't really like any bad quarrels or whatever, but no, I think he's really good. I just don't really know why his progress stopped the year before. I'm curious how he does this year, because it's also a challenge, or I also feel like it's kind of like a stepping stone and a challenge for people to prove that they're really great when they go from, like, you know, these ideal conditions of having, you know, maybe all of your teammates are maybe the best in their roles, and you're a championship level team, to a team where okay, maybe your teammates are not all the best in their roles, but you need to make it, maybe not a championship level team or the best team in the league, but you need to make it like a solid contender to win, and lead, because again, it's back to the old discussion. It's like being talented and clicking well is not all you need to do nowadays in League of Legends. And I feel like that's kind of like the test for every single player when they kind of transition into veterancy, to how can they inspire others and kind of learn new things that they were usually weak at, just to make the team better. Because right now I feel like he's almost a veteran. I think it's his maybe 4th year, 5th year, where you're not a rookie anymore. You're not. I mean, I don't even know how old he is. He's like 24 maybe, or 25. So yeah, now he's in the veteran boy squad, where he needs to be a leader and do things that he maybe doesn't like to do, or he doesn't feel like he needed to do. But from what I heard, I think he's stepping up right now. Over time, after all the, or like me, Marang left and everyone else. I mean, it's just him and Comp, I think, from the old Rogue squad, and I think both of them kind of were forced into this position where all of a sudden you guys are the leaders of the group. Do something, steer the ship. So from what I heard, he's doing okay. But yeah, that's one of the tests of time for him, I guess.
If I look at this 2022 and I describe it like this, so in the first split, you guys were excellent, but you obviously lost the one to G2. Then in the summer, there was a bit of problems in the regular split, but it got together in the playoffs. You won the split, you won the fucking LEC. And then at Worlds, you had a group where, look, actually at the time, obviously the DRX came from Plains and nobody knew how good they are. But the joke is, we all now know they won Worlds, right? In the first week of that group, if people don't remember, you guys beat them and Tops. You beat the eventual world champions, and Top was one of the favourites. And these were the ones where everyone remembers you were having a great game. You were the Maokai that, like, at the time everyone was underestimating. You were fucking smurfing on these games. So if I look at this year, this is like the best year of your career. It's like a fabulous year in general. How the fuck does that lineup of Rogue, that 5 players, not ever play another game after Worlds? Like, how does Odoamne suddenly not be on Rogue? Like, to me, that's the most obvious one ever. You just run it back. You just see at least one more split. Come on, like, you see if the magic's real, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I feel like it's kind of a league-wide trend where all teams have to do to get stronger is literally stay together. And right now, I look at G2, for example, this year in 2024, I'm like, they changed no one, but somehow everyone else got worse. So I'm like, because everyone else is getting worse around you, by you changing no one, you're technically getting stronger,
Yeah.
So for me, it was a no-brainer, That whole year we were like talking and everything, and we were like, yeah. I don't know, in spring we were like, okay. At the beginning we were supposed to like talk about we were supposed to talk about contract renewal at the beginning of spring. Then we're like, oh, there's this merger. I think the merger with Koi was happening, or at that time we didn't know who it was, but there was some merger, or someone is buying or someone is selling, whatever. Stuff that was not really, we were not supposed to know. So like, let's talk in summer. In summer happens. We're like, okay, let's talk after summer finals. Summer finals happens, we win. Or like, okay, let's talk after Worlds. Worlds happens. We're like, okay, let's talk in like a couple of weeks. And a couple of weeks happen, and then they're like, well, no one wants you. And I'm like, okay. It was a shock, because for the whole year I was like, we're gonna work together, we have a good working relationship. Sure, you argue and stuff, but kind of everyone argues, as long as it's not toxic, and everyone is.
Plus, you won in summer. People famously always say when you win, it's supposed to make it all better, and you're supposed to forget all the bad stuff, right?
I mean, it's literally what everyone was saying. I think, like T1, for example, this year, everyone was saying before Worlds, oh, they're gonna break up. This is the last time they're gonna play together. Everyone hates each other. Blah blah blah. They win Worlds. Oh, we're running it back.
Yes.
I thought it was gonna be the same there. I mean, sure, we had issues. And like clear issues that we saw, and we're like, okay, we need to fix. Had some ideas on how to fix it, but then I get the call, and I'm like, oh, we're not gonna renew you, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, the whole world thought that I was gonna get renewed, but now I'm not getting renewed, so that kind of sucks, you know. But yeah, I'm sad. I'm really, really sad about it because I really believed that if we ran it back with that roster with everyone, we would do some like really, really good things, because I felt like, again, teams were not really, you know, upgrading in that sense, and we would have like a good shot of like of winning with how everything will look like. But yeah, it's just weird circumstances, I guess, that it didn't happen.
Events come and go, fame rises and then falls away. You have a job, you lose a job. You do one thing, you have to move on to another. But one of the cool things about my career is I have my own support network who's always got my back. So I always know I can rely on support to do the work I want to do and talk the way I want to talk, and not have to follow certain rules that others arbitrarily have to follow. And that support group is, of course, called the Skrilluminati, my Patreon community. This video and all the others on my channel was kindly supported by Matt Pugnaccio Rakula, Frisky, Ahmed Haju, Tobias Bernasconi, Toucan, Tosh, Jensen Go, Animosity, and you know it, always my main man Jerky's minion, rocking with me, ride or die. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for a future episode of Reflections or a talk show? Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming guests are. Maybe you want to ask me a question for my video AMA, where I tend to go quite in depth, or perhaps you want to take part in one of those really long donated discussions where we talk about whatever you're into in esports. Well, if any of those perks or any of the others catch your fancy, join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box, where? Down below.